Good morning. Good morning, Helen. Nice to see you. All right. I've got this on a little bit different of a stand here, so I'm just going to hopefully set it so that you can see me. So this morning, we are going to do a flow that is another one of Bernie Clark's. His site is yinyoga.com if you are interested in any other information on yin yoga, other poses. There's a link there to his newsletters, link to his YouTube channel as well. So lots of information there, and that's yinyoga.com. He was the one that we used, whose book we used extensively in our teacher training. So this morning we're doing one of his. It's for the legs. So just so you think about your legs, you've got four sides. So you've got the tops, the fronts of them, where your quads are. We're also going to target inner legs, where your adductors are. And then of course there's the outer legs. You've got your IT band and the abductors, and then hamstrings down the backs of the legs. So all four sides of your legs we're going to work today. As always, we start with a quiet centering, meditative mind. The whole hour is in this state, but we take the first 5 minutes or so and just spend a little bit of time in quiet, contemplative meditation, getting in touch with your body and quietening your mind. So come to a comfortable cross-legged seat, one foot in front of the other if you like. If you are comfy in half lotus, then feel free to sit there. Remember, it can be a little bit more comfy if you sit your sit bones just on the very edge of a little rolled up quilt perhaps. If you want, you can lie back, and in that case then just be kind to your low back and have your legs bent to start, feet apart slightly, inner knees resting. Hands can be resting on your belly or maybe by your sides, palms up or down, doesn't matter. One hand on your belly, one hand on your heart is also another lovely way to have your hands. If you're seated, they can be in your lap, on your thighs, palms up or down. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears, and now let them slide down your back, away from your ears. Tuck your chin in slightly. That'll lengthen the back of the neck. And if you haven't already done so, just let your eyes fall softly shut. Settling into your room, onto your mat, into your space. Just let go of your morning thus far. Let go of today, whatever is in store, things to do. Excuse me. Tell yourself all of those busy thoughts, they'll be waiting for you once you leave your mat. So that this next hour then is just for you, body, mind, and spirit. Do a body scan. Take note if there are any areas on any levels, physical, mental, spiritual, or emotional. Areas that may need an extra little bit of care or attention this morning. And it's not that you'll dwell on whatever you find arises, but you do acknowledge it. Acknowledge them. Create a little space, maybe forgiveness. And when we check in again at the end of the class, you may notice things have subtly shifted in perspective or sensation. And then begin to become aware of your breath next. Don't change anything, just notice it. Whereabouts in your chest cavity are you breathing? Most likely the upper chest. How fast are you breathing? Are you breathing through your nose or your mouth, or a bit of both? So begin to breathe in and back out again through your nose. Pull that air in, past the rings of the nostrils, trace its path as it flows up your nose, down your throat into your lungs, and then back out that same pathway. Feel the swirl past the rings of the nostrils as the breath exits the body. Notice the difference in temperature there at the rings of the nostrils, how the air is cooler when it first swirls in, and it's warmer when it swirls back out. Notice how your breath is slowing down. Maybe your belly's moving a little more, diaphragm working as you're getting to the bottom of your lungs, where the air tends to stagnate. So next, we're going to even out your inhales and exhales. Put a count, maybe to 2 or 3, as you pull that air in. And then the same steady count as you send it back out again. Don't force your breath to match the counting. Match the numbers to your breath, allowing it to deepen and find its own steady, even rhythm. And if the counting doesn't work for you, try this little mantra, a little phrase. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. Matching that phrase to your inhales and your exhales. Check that your shoulders are still relaxed. On another inhale, pay attention to how your rib cage moves. Notice the expansion. The fronts lift and separate. So do the backs. They kind of poof out. If you're lying back, you'll feel them press into your mat. On another inhale, go to the side ribs. Notice there's not as much movement there, but still some. Maybe you feel a slight lift in the armpit area. Watch your pearly white rib cage contract on the exhale. Now go deeper. Beneath your pearly white ribs, take a look at your lungs. See them pink and healthy, shiny. Ritual sponges, these lungs of ours, they fill up the majority of our chest cavity. Watch them expand in those same 4 directions. The fronts, feel the backs, open, poof out. Take your mind on another inhale to the inner and the outer sides of your lungs. See them, feel them thicken as you take in a breath. Watch those lungs contract as you exhale. Know that they turn slightly blue. This amazing process of life-giving by our lungs, this amazing breath that you're doing right now, is your yogic breath. And it's the main breath that we use in yin yoga. Send your lungs some gratitude for this lovely breath, this life-giving breath. Your lungs are tender, the first place that we assimilate the outside world chi, energy, with our inner chi. So this yogic breath helps anchor our mind inside our body. We can't turn off our thoughts, but we can learn to focus them. And focusing them on the breath can help. The other reason for the emphasis on the breath is that besides anchoring your mind inside your body with this focus, it acts as a gauge. If you lose this lovely, full, complete breath that you're breathing right now, then you know you need to ask yourself what's going on. Maybe back off. Maybe you're in too deep or pushing, something we should never do in yin. So maybe you need to modify. Maybe your mind has just left your body. gone into the future or revisiting the past. So it's another way, by focusing back onto this lovely full yogic breath, to bring your mind back inside your body. The more we practice with awareness, the better the benefits are. Now, if you are lying back, make your way to one side, pause there for a moment. Everyone can blink their eyes open and closed a few times. If you're seated, lift your knees, help them, straighten them out, give them a little bounce in a rock from the top of the hips, maybe push through the heels and toes. When you're ready from your back, push yourself up and into a seated position. We're going to start off with butterfly, a common one that we start off with. So again, this can aggravate sciatica, so strongly suggest that you either roll the end of your yoga mat over to make a little shelf for your sit bones, or if you've got a little towel or a little quilt, then sit your sit bones just on the edge so you feel that lift and slight tilt of your pelvis forward. Knees flare out to the sides, make a diamond shape on the floor in front of you. Don't have your feet in really close to your groin. It's not Baddha Konasana, it's this diamond shape called butterfly. Support. If this bothers a knee, then set a block or a book. If you don't have a yoga block, then set a book, or roll up another quilt. If you've got another one handy, roll it up. Another towel. Always support, okay, so that this doesn't pull so much on the hips or the knees. And if you can't bend your knee, I have a cousin that's been doing these, and she's got severe arthritis and can't bend her one knee hardly at all, she said. So then set it like that, maybe put something underneath it so it can rest on. And just work to pull it in a little bit, and you'll start to work on the fascia there. All right, blocks can be nice inside. So take an inhale, and then what we're going to do is add to it by leaning forward. So we're compressing into our hips. We're intensifying that pull down the inside of our legs. You can set your block on its end like this. Rest your elbows there, your forearms. Let your head dangle. Or maybe that's too much, so set your elbows on the block and rest your head in your hands. If that's too high, maybe you turn it over. Maybe you rest the block on your feet. Rest your forearms there. Let your head go. Or maybe it's the elbows and you rest your head in your hand. Some of you might find that you rest your forehead on that block, and then your arms just naturally go wherever they feel best, outside, or maybe it's nicer to have them inside. Whatever you're doing, don't pull. Just lean with a rounded low back if it's okay for your low back. But if you have any disc issues, do not round there. Keep that tummy pulled in. That helps give you the support for your low back. Keep it flat then, and just lean from the hips with a flat back. And so you're not pulling, you're just, arms are completely heavy and relaxed, elbows bent. If it bothers your neck to dangle, then don't. Keep your head in line and just close your eyes, go inside and feel what's going on in the hips. Find that edge. That's the first tattva, the first principle of yin, is that we find this place of discomfort. It's a comfortable discomfort. It's not too intense that we can't find our yogic breath. But it's a place we're not too happy. We can notice tugs and pressures that kind of make us feel like we could groan. So rather than back away from that tugging, the second tattva is stillness. We stay there. In fact, we try to relax there. Find your breath. And remember, it's never a place of pain. If there is pain, then you back off. Use a modification. If it's the low back that doesn't like it, then remember, pull that tummy in and don't round there. Maybe don't lean forward as much. Maybe sitting upright with the knees flared out is plenty for you. So we find stillness there. Go inside, notice what's going on. Maybe one inner leg has more of a tug than the other. Maybe the tug is all down the outer legs. Maybe the pressure in the ankles is quite intense. Maybe it's ebbed. So this stillness is physical, but also an inner stillness. Being aware. And then the other part of the stillness is time. And that's just over 3 minutes. So inhale your way back up. We hold for minutes in yin. Exhale when you get all the way up. Take your hands, lean back on them. Just leave your legs where they are for a moment. Notice that rush of warmth and blood through the low back, the hips. When you're ready, set your feet apart about the width of your yoga mat, narrow-wise. You're probably sitting lengthwise. I find this way is better just for teaching. Do some windshield wipers. Bring the inner knee of one leg, the outer knee of the other towards your mat. Notice how that feels so good in the hips to help release that. And then straighten those legs. Give them a nice little bounce. Rock from the top of the hips. And then this next one you might want to swivel sideways. It's called Dragonfly. And we're going to sit sideways. Sit on that little yoga mat or roll the end of your yoga mat over so that you have that slight lift and tilt of your pelvis. A lot of us have tight hamstrings, especially I get a lot of runners, cyclists in my classes. So yeah, they're very tight in the hamstrings. And so you don't have to have your legs totally straight, have them bent, but this lift of the pelvis and slight tilt can also help your pelvis to go forward, because the tight hamstrings tends to tip the pelvis backwards, and so then your backwards pelvis, you can't really go anywhere. So elevating just on the edge of that rolled up yoga mat and tilting forward can help. So if it bothers you big time or you can't get your legs straight, put a block under there. Take a little cushion or a rolled up towel or a quilt and put that underneath the knees. Both knees can be supported. You can even have in yin, we don't have to have everything totally straight like in other forms of yoga. You can have your legs bent this much. So inhale now, and then take an exhale. On the exhale, start to lean forward again. Leaning forward does a couple of things. It increases the compression in your hip joint, as you can feel. And it also works on your back, because even though we are doing a flow for the legs, yin always works on the hips and the low back. And for that reason, it's very beneficial to us Westerners that we don't tend to live on the floor. So leaning, just like we did in butterfly, if your low back has disc issues and you shouldn't round, keep your tummy pulled in, protect that low back, lean from the hips. If you're okay to round, then definitely round. Longer distance in a curved line, so allow that spine to round out, and those round knobbly bones are going to get pulled apart in the back more that way, compressed in the front of them, right? Blocks, if you're not using them underneath your knees, you can have it in front of you, and then lean on the block. Maybe you put your elbows out to the side, rest your forehead on the block, on your stacked hands. Those of you that are more flexible, you can get your head down like this. Maybe put it on one side. I'll give you the halfway mark. You might want to take your glasses off. And then if you are even resting on a block, or your forehead's on the mat, it doesn't matter if it's one side or your forehead, you can open your arms out towards your feet and then relax that way. That feels really nice across the shoulders. So I won't do the full extension of the pose, just so that I can talk a little bit. When I'm teaching, I'm not doing, I'm helping demonstrate. So this is a little different teaching at home. Breathe in. Breathe out. Find that yogic breath that you had at the beginning. Listen to your heart beating. I'm going to hold this one for just a little bit longer than the 3 minutes. So just always working with your edge. Don't go past it. Your breath is your guide. Feel the backs of your lungs here with this forward bend. You can feel how much room they have to expand and contract. So the reason why we want to soften our muscles in yin is because we aren't targeting them in yin per se. Some of the poses we do a little bit of muscle work, but mostly we want them soft because we target fascia in yin. Fascia, or connective tissues as it's known also. Those are if you think of a package of meat as the best analogy, that red meat, and there's threads, kind of fibers and yarn-like threads that run through various cuts of the meat. There's a film, sometimes of whitish stuff around, or maybe in between. You can kind of see it pull sometimes. I think of ribs that have that opaque film on the flat side of the ribs. That's fascia of the animal. We have that same fascia in us. If you think about your low back, in the back of your ribs right now, the pulling that you can feel there, know that you're tugging on that fascia. There's fascia, connective tissues, ligaments all along your spine as well. By leaning forward, you're getting that. And then think about your hip joints, largest joint in your body, the ligaments there. You're tugging on them. That's what feels uncomfortable because of the tug. Connective tissues are not like muscles. Muscles love to be warm and worked and bent. But connective tissues, cool is better for them. And a steady stress on them. We don't stretch them because then you injure any kind of connective tissues. Ligaments, obviously, if they're stretched, they're injured. But tugging, stressing them like we do is very beneficial for these cells. It's a way very similar to myofascial release, of targeting these cells to kind of wake them up. And then when they're stimulated this way with this steady stress, they create more cells. So muscles, with the repetition and the work, they create more cells because, and they love that with the elastin that's in them. But with connective tissues made up of mostly collagen, which is very strong, plasticky in nature, then they'll create more of those types of cells so that you can get this little bit more length, little bit more feeling of being limber, ease of movement. And then, as you know, when things are easy to move, you have that freedom of movement, you tend to be a happier person, as opposed to when we're tight and it's harder to move, we don't have that flexibility, then we tend to be a little bit grumpier sometimes. We're going to be here about 30 more seconds, a little bit more than that. You might be thinking, did she forget to time? Just notice your thoughts as well. Yoga's everything. It's a way to get into your mind. So come back to that breath. Thought for today is from May Sarton. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. That can sure apply to us these days in our bubbles at home. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. On your next inhale, slowly come back up. Exhale when you get all the way up with without moving your legs, lean back on your hands, and that'll release your hip joints. Your low back should feel fantastic. Take a few breaths there. And then, because that was 7 minutes, I don't usually tell students when we're going to do a little bit longer one because they tend to freak a little bit. But it's lovely to marinate that long in a pose, isn't it? So bend your legs like that, lean back, arch your back, lift your heart up to the ceiling. That helps to release your back. Take your time, and then when you're ready, come forward, set those legs down just like we did, and do some windshield wipers here. Take your time, nice and easy. Notice those hips, how they feel maybe a little looser. Straighten out those legs, give them a nice little bounce. Maybe a rock from the top of the hips. We'll do one more forward bend for the hamstrings. This one gets them quite nice and deeply. So swing yourself back around so that you're facing the regular way down your mat. Again, maybe sit your sit bones on the edge of your rolled up yoga mat or a little quilt or whatever. Make sure I'm still on camera. There we go. All right. So again, this one, put something beneath your knees if you like. It can be a cushion, rolled up quilt. You can keep your legs straight if you like. You can just use your hands beneath them if you like. Whatever, take some of the pressure off the hamstrings. We want a little bit of pressure, but remember, we don't want it crazy intense. Inhale now, lean forward. On your exhale, same things apply as before. Keep your low back flat. If there's disc issues, pull that tummy in. Lean forward from the hips then. If your low back is great, then round. Let your hands just go wherever they are. If you're not using them beneath your knees, relax your arms, elbows slightly bent, just let them hang. Relax your shoulders. Let your head go. If you are not using a block beneath your knees, sometimes it's nice to have your forehead rest on the block maybe. Remember, there's different sides. If you've got 2 blocks, stack them up. Maybe that's what you do, is rest your head on your hands like this or on your wrists. Whatever allows that upper body to relax. It's quite magical. When the upper body relaxes, so often the legs go, oh, okay, and they just relax as well. If you're not resting your head, consider letting it dangle for the back of the neck. Remember, we're not grabbing onto our feet, we're not pulling. That's the other forms of yoga where we are targeting muscles. Here we want everything soft so we can get at fascia, what I was just talking about. Feel the pull all along the back of your legs, right from your heels. Maybe you can travel and find where it pulls a little more intensely in the back of your knees, and then you feel that deep tug in the back of your thigh, right to maybe the center of your butt cheek where the hamstring insertion is. Maybe you also are noticing a downward pull from your skull, the base of your skull, down your spine. Remember, the edge is not a static place. It's not stagnant. It changes. So maybe at this point you're noticing, it doesn't feel that it's pulling as much. So maybe you walk your hands a little bit further. Maybe you lean a little bit further, settle into that new comfortable discomfort. Find stillness. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now on your next inhale, you're going to slowly uncurl your way back up until you're in an L shape. Keep your eyes closed, just sit there for several breaths, enjoying that lovely spearmint feeling, heat and cool, buzzing. And then bounce those legs rock from the top of the hips. And then from here, we're going to come to all fours. We'll do 2 poses in a row for one side, and then we'll switch to the other side. So from all fours, and have a quilt, little towel handy for this one on the right side of you. So slide your knee up beneath your right wrist like this, and then swivel your foot around so that your right foot is coming towards that left wrist. Check in with your knee here. If this is already putting some torque onto that knee, then you need to stop. You need to come down. You can do the same pose with much less pressure on your back. Put your ankle over your left knee. Send that knee out to the side. Stay there, or increase the compression in your hip and the pull down the leg by moving that other leg up. You can even put your hands through and clasp it beneath your knee. Keep an elbow there to help keep that outer rotation. Okay, so that's a safer way if there's any kind of issues with your knee here. If you're fine, your knee is out to the side there by that right wrist, tuck your left toes under and move your left leg back until you just stop. A lot of people, the butt cheek is up in the air like this, so that's why you want to put something beneath it so that you can rest. You don't want to be crooked like this because that's not good for your spine. You want to have something underneath that butt cheek. See if you can ensure that this right knee is going to the side of your hip. So there's a bit of an angle here with this leg, so you can feel a pull through the quad and through the hip. We're going to spend the first 2 minutes here of the pose in full swan. So those of you that are familiar with this, if you already went down, come back up. Flex that right foot a little bit. That'll help protect the knee. The other thing I tell my students is think about a little light that's on the front of your left pelvic bone, and aim that little light down towards your mat. That helps with this, keeping the low back even as well. Be careful that your shoulders aren't up to your ears like this. Relax them down. You can rest your hands on your leg like that. You can have them in front of you. Wherever you are, close your eyes, relax your legs. Now notice the complete different sensation in each leg, and in each hip the orientation is completely different. The right hip is in an outer rotation. The left hip is in extension, so a strong pull in the front of that left hip joint. If you're not feeling it, move your hands back just a little bit, maybe a centimeter, and move your torso back just that centimeter or so, even half a centimeter. And right away you'll notice how the back bend is increased by moving your torso back. But at the same time, you'll probably feel a little bit deeper of a pull in the front of your left hip. Breathe in, breathe out. This is a great one where you can use that ocean breath, the Ujjayi breath. Take an inhale here, and we're going to walk our hands forward, coming to sleeping swan. Notice how right away the back bend dissipates. Feel free here to rest on your forearms like I'm doing, or turn your elbows out to the sides maybe. Stack your hands, make a nice pillow for your head to rest on, or maybe it's your forearms that you rest your head on. If you're not using your block under your right hip, maybe rest your forehead on the block. And then that can be nice too. Some of you might find that you're down on, your forehead can go down on your mat, and you can stretch your arms out in front of you. Lift the palms down if you like, or put the palms together in prayer. Relax your shoulders. Ride your breath in and out. If you find that the discomfort becomes too much, too intense, then back off. Move your torso up a little higher. If you find that the discomfort ebbs too much, then you can, those of you that have your head on your mat, you can bring your arms back like that and just completely relax. Know that this will put quite a bit more pressure on, especially that right leg. So easy does it. About another 30 seconds here. Steady breathing. Can really notice the sides of your legs in this one because you're working the front of the back leg and the inner and outer lines of your right leg. Now on an inhale, slowly come up. If you have something under this right butt cheek, get it out of the way so you can lean to that side. Swing your back leg all the way around. If you were on your back, make sure you pause on your side before you sit up and join us. We're going to go right into shoelace pose. So turn back this way. So your right leg doesn't really move too much except bring the knee so that it is in center in line with your belly button, and then swing that back leg all the way around and magically it'll come right into place. Or not. If this is not going to happen, it's because of tightness in the hip, and that's where, again, because we don't live on the floor, that's how what happens with us Westerners. So if you're more like this, then I would suggest straighten out that bottom leg, and then you might find, oh, you've got a little more room. You can bring this left one across, stack the knees on top of each other. If this knee is still fairly high, put something there so that it can rest there. Now, if you have issues with the knee, that there's no way this is going to go, and maybe your leg doesn't bend because of issues with the knee, you can do this, modify it on your back. So you lie down and then cross your left knee is the one that's going to be on top. Cross it just like you're sitting in a chair and you're crossing your legs, and then you can bend it if you like, or like increase the bend by lifting your legs up. You can even put your hands on your ankles like that to put some more pressure, but no pain in your knee ever. Okay, so that's one way you can modify shoelace. But I find most students with that bottom leg straight, bringing the top one across, we're all right. Okay, so again, this one aggravates sciatica, so elevate your hips, sit on the edge of something so you've got that slight lift and tilt forward. Now put your hands on either side of that straight leg, or if you've got them both bent in front of the knees that are stacked, and remember it's knee on top of knee, not ankle. The ankles are far apart. Push back a little bit. So again, as you allow the back to round or not, keep the tummy in and keep the low back flat. You keep that little bit of pressure in your hands so that the weight stays back in the hips. Slowly easing forward. A block can be lovely here as well. If you're not putting it between the knees, then set it down in front of you and lean forward onto it, like so. Maybe it goes to one end and you rest your forehead on the block. Then your arms can relax. They can go up to the sides if that feels better for your shoulders, or you can bring them together, palms in prayer in front of you. Breathe in. Breathe out. Ride that breath in. Think of a wave coming into shore as you inhale. Exhale it out. This next little thought, deep thought, is from Sarah Power's book. I was fortunate enough to do a training with her as well in Palm Beach many years ago. And she said, staying still in various poses will undoubtedly bring up lots of emotions. As we surrender into the sensations, we have the opportunity to acknowledge all that arises within us, allowing ourselves time to fully inhabit our emotions without compulsion to act out because of them. So sometimes you find frustration just pops up out of nowhere, flows into you, or maybe anger, maybe irritation. Especially in this time now of or stress. Very unusual kind of stress that we're all in. But if you find that there's some negative emotion that arises, and sometimes they're positive too, just supreme joy can flood into you. But even if it is anger, worry, anxiety, irritation, always come back to your breath. Don't try to stop whatever emotion, but don't get too involved with it either. On your next inhale, slowly come upright. Exhale. If you're on your back, make your way to one side, just like you did before. Take your top leg off, bring your bottom leg out, set them down about the width of your mat, lean back. Enjoy that lovely spearminty feeling of warmth and cool that's flowing through your legs. Know how much good you did targeting those fascia layers and threads and fibers. When you're ready, then windshield wipers. Bella's in here, my cat, but she's behaving. She's staying off camera this time. All right, so then we'll do those two poses on the other side. So we'll swing around back to all fours. Take your time. So we start off with swan. So slide your left knee behind your left wrist and swivel that left foot up towards the right wrist. Again, check in with your knee. If this knee is great, then do the pose with us in this way. If this is the knee that doesn't want to bend, then go onto your back like I showed you before. Tuck your right toes under and creep that right leg back until you just kind of stop. And this is where you want to put something, a block maybe, or if that's too high, then something lower, maybe just a cushion or a rolled up quilt, but set it under that left butt cheek so that you can even out your low back. Be careful you don't overcompensate. See what happened there with me. So don't need to have that quite so high. Send that left knee, send that left knee out to the side. Look back, make sure that right leg is nice and straight behind you, top of the foot relaxing onto the floor. Make sure you're not sitting on this left foot. It can be at a bit of an angle. One day maybe, but it depends on your knee health, and no twinges, no pain in that knee. One day maybe that shin will be parallel with the top line of your mat. Maybe this lifetime, maybe the next lifetime. It's okay. Remember, this one we're going to stay up, full swan. So walk your hands back a little bit. You can rest a hand on your leg if you like, or they can both be in front of you. Even if you're leaning forward a little bit like that, walk your hands back just a little bit. Notice the back bend that happens. Feel it's kind of like a fan, kind of a shape that fans out from your spine, maybe across the top of your pelvis. Feel the pull that happens in the front of your right hip. Relax your legs. The more you can soften the muscles in the legs, the more you're going to pull on the fascia and target the sides of your legs in particular, but also the more you soften, you might even notice the back bend a little bit more. Maybe you all of a sudden are aware that there's pulling in the lower belly, the sides of the abdomen. Or maybe it's all about that outer rotation in your left hip joint and the intense tug in the front of your right hip joint. Again, that ocean breath can be very helpful. Inhale now, and on the exhale, walk your hands forward. Come to rest maybe on your forearms, or turn the elbows out to the sides. Stack your hands, make a nice pillow for your forehead to rest on, or maybe it's your forearms that you rest on. Maybe you stack your fists and rest your head on your fists, or if you're not using a block, put the block, like I said before, under your head. Rest your forehead there. Arms can be straight out in front of you, palms down or palms together in prayer. And remember, if you feel pretty comfortable here, then feel free to move your arms back. But know that it does. You might want to take your glasses off because it does put more pressure on your head that way. Easy does it. Don't make it sensational. We want sensation, yes. But we want to be able to walk tomorrow and not feel that we overdid it. That's not good. That ocean breath is an HA sound in the back of your throat. And on the inhale, you say AH. And you'll hear your breath. But you would also get a very dry mouth if you kept your lips apart. So on an exhale, on an HA, put your lips together, but still say that HA sound in the back of your throat. You'll push it through your nose that way. Sound a bit like Darth Vader. That actually does a couple of things. It gives our mind something to listen to, focus on as well, because it's focusing on our breath. But that kind of breath also works on the nervous system, helping to calm things in these more intense poses. Almost done. Now inhale your way up. Exhaling. Whatever's under this left butt cheek, move it out of the way so that you can lean to that one side. Swing that back leg around, all the way around, become right into shoelace. So again, remember, in shoelace, this is the left leg that hardly moves at all. Just bring it more to the center and then get that right leg on top. Remember, if that doesn't work, lean back, straighten out that bottom leg, knee to knee. So it's always about the knees being together. Ankles are by your hip, far apart if both legs are bent. Okay, so knee on top of knee. Remember, you can put something between the knees as well. And again, this is an aggravator of sciatica, so sit your sit bones just on the edge of something, lift and tilt forward. Plant your hands in front of your knees or on either side of that straight leg. Push back a little bit. That keeps the weight off the knees and the weight in the hips where we want it. Leaning forward. This is a great one for the gallbladder meridian line. Yin works with acupuncture and acupressure theories as well. And not only the gallbladder meridian line, because it runs down the outer legs, but the inner leg sensations you're experiencing right now and into the groin. It's the liver line, the pair of, it's paired with the gallbladder line. It also gets the kidney line along the inside lines of the legs as well. Sometimes shoelace, for that reason, makes us a little bit anxious. And because it's targeting liver line as well, sometimes that's where the irritation or anger, annoyance can sometimes creep up. It's very intense, shoelace. So easy does it. It works deeply into your hip sockets. It's one of the best poses for us Westerners for that reason. Relaxing your shoulders. Remember, try not to take the stress into other areas. Wiggle your jaw. Breathe in. Breathe out. Easy does it on that straight leg for those of you in half shoelace. Remember, slip your hands beneath the back of the knee if there's too much pressure, or always a cushion beneath there or a block can help. Check that you're not gritting your teeth. If you can, let your head go. Almost done. On your next inhale, you're going to slowly uncurl. If you're on your back, make your way to one side. Exhale when you get all the way up. Take the top leg, set it down. Bring that bottom leg up, set it down. Lean back on your hands, close your eyes. Enjoy that delicious warmth, coolness, buzzing, flowing through your legs, your hips, maybe the low back. And then whatever you feel like after shoelace, sometimes I feel like I need to straighten my legs, give them that bounce and rock from the top of the hips. If you find that the windshield wipers is what helps to release it better for you, then do that. And then we've got time for, just probably one, talking too much, I guess, more pose. And it's saddle pose, and it can be, again, because of the bent knees, it can be not available for some people. So sit, do one leg at a time then. And so we'll start with the left leg straight and bend in your right leg like this, and turn this way so you can see. This will be better, like that. If you can't pull in that bottom leg too much, then remember you can always sit on a block, and it's okay, just pull it in what you can. If the knee is up like this, support under the inside like that. All right, so get yourself into your version of saddle. Sitting on the block really can help because it helps with that knee joint. This might be enough for you to stay there, especially if you've got issues with knee replacements or hip having issues there, because it can be hard on a hip as well. Remember, tugging is all you want. So support, 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 and then maybe you just stay here and you don't lean back. If you are okay, you can bend both legs and sit between them like that, and then maybe you stay here, or maybe you sit on the block with this way as well. You won't have as much time to stay and marinate in this pose. We'll just do probably 2 minutes is about all we've got here. So we'll do a minute for each side if you're doing one leg, 2 minutes, maybe a little bit longer if you're doing two. If you go back, take it easy. Go back onto your elbows maybe at first. Keep that arch in your low back. Remember, the knees should always stay in contact with the mat. If they start to lift up like that, then back off, come up a little higher. You can keep your head looking forward, or you might like to let it dangle back like that. If you're going to let it dangle back, when you come out of the pose, you leave your head back there. It's way too hard on your neck to try to drag it up from back here. And some of you, if you get all the way down, it can be really nice if you have a block handy to put it under your shoulder blades. And then that keeps that lovely arc in your back. Lifting your heart, breathing in, breathing out. This is another one where the ocean breath can really help you relax your shoulders, relax your legs. Listen to that breath. So if you're bending one leg now, you need to come up slowly, use your core, get yourself back up all the way, and then whatever leg, you had your right leg bent first, so lean, straighten it out. If you're bending both legs, you just stay back there. Bring in that other leg, and then same thing, ease your way back, resting on your elbows maybe, or staying fully upright and just working the legs and the hips. This is your practice. And remember, if you're feeling it, you're doing it. This relaxing of muscles and tugging is so good for us. But again, this one can be pretty intense on the hips, so easy does it. You can, with one leg bent, use the block as long as you can stay down. Keep the leg down, the knees down. And use that block under you as well. And of course, if both legs are bent, then you haven't moved. Feel this inner rotation that we're getting with this final pose. Hips are inner rotated, so you've got that strong pull again on the outside point of your hips, but it kind of arcs from the outside point of your hips across your thighs to the inner knees. About 30 seconds left. Now to come out, you're going to pull your tummy in, push into your elbows, your hands, leave your head back, come all the way up. Exhale when you get all the way up. Come forward onto all fours and just stay still there for several breaths, enjoying that release. So important to pay attention when we come out. And then we'll swing our legs to one side and come down onto our backs. Arms are going to come out to your sides in a T. We're going to do a couple of twists here. So arms are in a T. Bring your knees both up and drop them over to the right. Turn your head and look to the outstretched left hand. This right hand can rest on the knee, the top or the side of the knee if you like. Fingers in the pit of the knee. Or if it feels better just to have your arms out in a T, then do that. Turn your head and look to the left hand, or not. If that bothers your neck, just keep your head central. Twists help to release tension that built up in our spine, perhaps over the last hour. Now inhale your legs back up to the center. Plant your feet, push into them, lift your hips into the air, set the hips down. And then we'll drop those knees slowly over to the left. Turn your head, look to the outstretched right hand. Think about your right ear coming onto your mat. And that'll bring the twist nicely into your neck. Twists also help to restore the balance in our nervous system. Now inhale those knees back up to the center once more. Plant your feet, push into them, lift your hips into the air so you realign your spine. Bring your knees into your chest, wrap your arms around your shins, give yourself a hug. Rock over that spine, massaging. Take your time. And then stretching out your legs for final Shavasana. A little bit of space between them. Arms by your sides, palms up or down. Taking a deep breath. Let it go with a sigh. One more time. Deep breath in. Let go. Sink into your mat. Maybe you cover up with a quilt or a blanket so you're nice and warm. Let your breath now be whatever it wants to be. Fill your body with a warm, healing light of relaxation from your toes all the way to your scalp. You're warm, heavy, glowing with this light of relaxation. Float away to a happy place or stay within. But whatever you do choose, take rest for about 2 or 3 minutes now on your own. Let your body now absorb the benefits of the practice, and I'll see you on Thursday. Namaste.